Hello and welcome to another episode of Beyond the 3D, the podcast that helps you rise above the 3D world, the 3D illusion of negativity, to experience life in a whole new way, to evolve and transform beyond where you are. My name is Michael J. Russ, and I thank you very much for taking the time to listen, and I appreciate your patience as I do not produce these podcasts every week. And I do that because these podcasts develop through inspiration, and sometimes inspiration needs time to germinate. And that is why I do about 2 a month, sometimes 3 per month. I have a couple planned for this month, another one for the month of this January. This is podcast episode number 105, and it's entitled The Alchemy of Wellness. And my next speaking engagement at the Wellness Weekend at the Henderson Beach Resort and Spa in Destin, Florida, in February on Valentine's Day weekend is what sparked this episode. And there's been a lively dialogue going on in my head about the inescapable importance of what the Dalai Lama affectionately refers to as our mental hygiene. Mental hygiene. I thought it was really quite interesting. In a recent tweet, the Dalai Lama stressed the importance of creating intentions for both mental and physical hygiene. His point is well taken. Your overall state of mind, self-talk, and levels of happiness and energy and enthusiasm, as well as positivity, matter. They matter and are essential if you desire to experience vibrant physical health. This connection between mental and physical is still being studied today, and they're finding out some really interesting things. However, I'm sure you're very familiar with the placebo effect. When they do double-blind studies, they give drug companies or they give somebody the real drug and other people the fake placebo. And there are a good percentage of people who get the placebo, sometimes as much as 25%, that actually experience healing. And you wonder, well, why? And it's because the belief system is there. The self-talk is there. There is the whole mental side of their thoughts, words, feelings, and everything are directed in a positive direction instead of a negative direction. And they see results. Within this episode, I'm going to discuss wellness from the perspective of living beyond the 3D, what this podcast is about. But before I do, I want to stress 2 things. First, it's not my intention to tell you what to or not to do. You're a human being who has been endowed with the power of choice and the free will to apply it exponentially. And it's up to you to decide what wellness means for you and how you can achieve it. And second, I have released my attachment to whether or not you engage in anything I share in these podcasts because I have no control, nor do I ever wish to have any control over you or anyone else. I'm simply here to share what has helped me retain my sovereignty and power for the last 6 decades, and that's it. I encourage you to mine the content of these podcasts for nuggets of treasure that you can apply to enrich your endless flow of happiness, energy, enthusiasm, and well-being that's so innate to who you are. Okay, now let's move into this episode. Each of you is approaching the concept of wellness from a different place, a different level of conscious awareness, a unique connection to wellness, and based on what you have experienced up to this point in your life. So your starting point is different than anyone else. What works for one of you now listening might not work for another listener, but there's always one constant. That's your state of being, your state of mind, where you are now mentally. Wellness is just as much a mental journey as it is a physical journey. So the question you want to be asking yourself when it comes to wellness is, how am I in relationship to my wellness? You are in relationship to everything you experience in life, every event, every person, every scenario, what you face in life. You're always in relation to it in one way or another. And you might not currently realize that you're the one who determines how you're in relationship to something outside of you. This is a mistake that people make. They see something happens to them, and they don't think about how they're in relationship to it. They just simply react. Your mission as a human being is to choose how you're going to be in relationship to wellness, your wellness. And your intentions are part of this process, a big part. In a recent conversation with my friend Cheryl, she reminded me of what international best-selling author Gary Zukav wrote in his amazing book about intentions. The book was called Seat of the Soul. In this insightful book, he writes, and I quote, "Every action, thought, and feeling is motivated by intention, and that intention is a cause that exists as one with an effect. If we participate in the cause, it is not possible for us not to participate in the effect. In this most profound way, we are held responsible for every action, thought, and feeling, which is to say, our every intention." He goes on to say, "It is therefore wise for us to become aware of the many intentions that inform our experience, to sort out which intentions produce which effects, and to choose our intentions according to the effects we desire to produce." And that's the end of the quote. I highly recommend that you read Seat of the Soul. You won't be able to put it down, and if you listen to it, you won't be able to stop listening. It is so rich, so rich. Are your intentions for wellness producing the desired effects? That's the question you want to ask yourself. You think about your life, you think about what's going on in your life, and we make intentions on every level, hundreds of them a day. And that's the question you do want to ask yourself about wellness. Are my intentions for wellness producing the effect? Do I feel better? Do I feel happier, more enthusiastic, more energetic? Do you feel good about myself? If not, it might be time to become more aware of your intentions toward your wellness. And it might also be important to get a sense for what wellness is for you. Because that's what you have to do. Sit back and say, okay, my friends are doing this. They've been asking me to get along with them and do whatever. But what does wellness really mean for me? Let's take an assessment of where I am at this point. And I just want to kind of give you a benchmark here. And the World Health Organization views wellness as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Great. Not the absence. So basically, the point here that I get from this is, listen, even though you feel great today, that doesn't mean that you're well, just because you don't have anything wrong with you physically, right? Or you don't have any kind of infirmity. Wellness is a long-term journey. And although this definition is a bit clinical, I'm sure you understand where they're coming from with this. Now, in my view, wellness is an active state of being manifested by evolving intentions to foster a healthy and balanced mind, body, and spirit. Let me say that again. It's an active state of being manifested by evolving intentions to foster a healthy and balanced mind, body, and spirit, which means wellness isn't static. It's ever evolving, ever transforming, based upon new awareness, knowledge, and experiences, things that happen to you every day. This view of wellness for me goes hand in hand with my favorite quote from Rumi, a 13th century Sufi poet who I often quote in this podcast. He says, "There is something I do not know, the knowing of which could change everything." There's a reason why this quote really pretty much defines my state of being and the lens through which I view every day, every connection, and the experiences that I have go on in my life. Now, and it has, by the way, for the last 3 decades. And for me, it's helped me take my wellness to a higher level. As I mentioned, wellness involves enhancing your connection to mind, body, and spirit. And what you might not have realized is how wellness and sovereignty are deeply connected. As a human being, you are the sovereign of your vessel. I've mentioned this in previous episodes. This means you're the ruler of your mind, body, and spirit. The three things you're looking to impact with your wellness doctrine, your wellness through your wellness intentions, by involving yourself in wellness modalities. At any given moment, you are doing one of two things: being a sovereign and dictating and taking responsibility for your intentions, perceptions, judgments, and other thoughts, every word and inner conversation, every feeling and response and action, or you are relinquishing your responsibility and all of these things to something outside of you. Sovereignty is essential to wellness because you can't change or transform that which you have chosen not to be responsible for. As wellness is an active intention to foster a deeper connection to mind, body, and spirit through meditation, yoga, mindfulness, massage, salt rooms, salt baths, fitness, healthy eating habits, and other modalities, sovereignty helps you realize how and when your intentions are being fulfilled because of the way you feel. Positive feelings. Remember, I always talk about that being the litmus test for whether something is working in your life. Positive feelings. Are you happy? Are you also energetic, enthusiastic about yourself and what you're doing? How you feel will always let you know whether something's working. Do you get that warmth in your heart and solar plexus area? Or do you get tingly all over? Do you feel energized and happy? All those things tell you whether what you're doing, what you're involving in, whether your intentions are working. About 3 days ago, I came face to face with being a sovereign in a way that was different than any other time in my life. It was a time when I was forced to get my mental hygiene in order or risk losing out on a life-altering career opportunity. I learned to carefully curate a healthy mental hygiene, making sure my attitude, energy, self-talk, and feelings were positive, authentic, and finely tuned before connecting with anyone each and every day. I don't mind saying that the physical effects of not being a sovereign and having my mental hygiene in good order were readily apparent. I would feel anxious, fearful, worried, stressed, and physically out of sorts, if you get my meaning. I felt it in my stomach. It was at this point in my life that the things I share in these podcasts, like sovereignty, transformational, inner alchemy, self-talk, and zero adversity, began to take shape and help me craft the relational connections that would transform my world. Do you recall in a past episode when I said, if you want to change your outer world, you must first change your inner world? As the days and years progressed, I began to notice how taking responsibility and dictating every thought, word, feeling, and response made me feel and how it impacted my overall wellness. I want to change gears here for just a moment to touch on a few other ideas that can foster greater wellness, and you might not have thought about this. It's experiential, really. Travel is a great way to enhance your connection to mind, body, and spirit. Seeing new destinations, engaging with people of different faiths, cultures, and nationalities can be transformative, life-altering, energizing, if you approach the travel with this intention. Expanding your relational connections is another fulfilling path that supports greater wellness. As a protagonist in your own life play, other people are cast members in your play and you in theirs. Being non-judgmental, kind, empathetic, loving, and compassionate when engaging with people enhances mind, body, and spirit in a huge way. If you want to get a sense for how much, again, your feelings are always the litmus test. The warm feeling in your heart and soul is a clear sign that you're moving in the right direction, as I always say. It is so important to pay attention to your feelings. You can use the alchemy. That's really when you use transformative alchemy. That's when you begin to apply it. When you apply the 16 elements that I talked about in all of last year, in putting alchemy into action. My life has been deeply impacted by the depth of both momentary and extended relationships formed during my travels and while visiting my favorite haunts around town. I can't tell you the number of times my girlfriend and I have gone to a restaurant or a bar to just get out and be around people and have struck up conversations with people who've been sitting next to us, either before, during, or after we were eating or having a cocktail. And we've discovered that we've had so much in common. And some of these people we have chosen to connect with on a deeper level by getting together again in the future. And they've become very, very good friends and likely down the line, good travel companions. Another way to foster wellness in your life is to exercise your power of choice when it comes to what you put in your body. Mind, body, spirit. The body part is incredibly important. The connection between diet and wellness has been well documented, and as I said earlier, I'm not here to judge. I'm here to share concepts and ideas you can apply to evolve, transform, and live beyond the 3D world of negativity. And I think I mentioned in a past episode how I used to eat junk food, fast foods, and soft drinks, and do a lot of shopping on the inside of the grocery store where all the boxed and processed foods resided. That was about 30 years ago, or a little more. That all changed one day when I asked myself a simple question, a very basic question. The question is, if I were to continue on the path I'm on, what would I look and feel like in 30 years? That's the question I asked myself. I don't know where it came from. I don't know what sparked the question. The catalyst might have been something I read or heard somewhere. The most interesting thing is I asked the question of myself. And this question sparked an immediate assessment of my diet, which has led to some practical changes that are still in place today. In all honesty, though, I didn't adopt an absolute way of eating like vegan, paleo, keto, vegetarian, or any other specific dietary modality. What I have done over the past years is adopt specific aspects of these styles. I've taken little bits and pieces from them as I felt they were in balance with me and my way of living and my way of eating. And if you've been thinking about making changes to your dietary consumption, I've discovered that the more foreign your dietary change is to your current lifestyle and family circumstances, the more challenging it becomes to maintain. Let me just go off on a tangent here and explain why. I've come across many people who want to recalculating their intentions for wellness. They're in a family, have a husband, have a couple of kids, and they have for a long period of time been cooking for them in a certain style, a certain way, and that's the way that they're used to. And in many cases, in a relationship, when you have children, the challenge becomes how you set new wellness intentions for yourself and balance what you've been doing, because they may not have the same intentions towards wellness. You may have a situation where you have a drive and energy and to shift and change and become healthier and take a longer term perspective with regard to your own wellness, but your partner doesn't share that. And as you know, you can't control somebody else. You can only influence. You can even just put out there what you want to do. You can let them know what you want to do, but it's not necessarily something that you can force upon someone else. So the challenge becomes how you develop your own wellness. And I've seen situations where people just haven't been able to maintain their new healthy intentions because they've literally doubled the amount of work that they were doing. And so what I suggest in this case is to make very small changes over time. Shift, buy this instead of that. Eat this instead of that. And explain why sit down with your partner and explain how you're feeling. how are you feeling about your wellness and looking down the road, and impress upon them how you would like to go on that journey together, because you are partners, and how you had been thinking about 30 years down the road and what you would both look like or feel like. And making small changes now can have a big impact on the health of yourself and your family down the line, and also teach them valuable lessons, your kids especially, valuable lessons about eating. And so I always suggest, if you're in a partnership relationship and you've got an idea about something you want to do that is good for you, to sit down and be honest with your partner. Be honest and tell them what you're thinking and what you're looking at doing. Ask them if they want to come on board. If they don't, work out a compromise as to how you can go do what you need to do, and they can also be satisfied. That's what you need to do, you know. And my go-to plan over the past 30 years involves what I call wholesale avoidance. That's been my plan for wellness. As a rule, I avoid junk food, processed foods, unhealthy fats, soft drinks, sugary juices, processed salt, processed bagged, canned, and boxed foods. This is much easier to accomplish when you start looking at the way a grocery store is laid out. The majority of the what I call unhealthy foods, processed and otherwise, that contain lots of processed salts and sugars and fats, are really on the inside of a grocery store. So if you walk into the grocery store, they're all laid out the same way. All the boxed and canned goods and everything else, frozen foods, they're all laid out in the middle. And all the soft drinks and the bad stuff is there. Usually the organic stuff, the organic fresh stuff, it's on the outside. Fresh vegetables on the outside, right? The fresh produce, the meats, dairy, cheeses, organic, vegetarian foods, and fresh breads, as a rule, are on the outside aisle. So that aisle runs around. That's around the outside of the store. And just about every grocery store is laid out in this fashion. Now, there are unhealthy foods kind of snuck in here and there, and you have to just adopt one simple rule for yourself. Read the label. Read the label. You know, when making changes to your eating habits, it's important to maintain some flexibility. My rule here is very simple. When I have no great choices, I choose the least harmful option. I don't live in the world of absolutes, because there are none. And there are exceptions to every rule. And when I do make an exception, I don't punish myself for it. I don't beat myself up. It's just something. One time, no big deal. A couple of times in a year, no big deal. But if it's something that you do consistently over and over and over again, you know that long term there could be, if you continue to do it, it could be some damage down the line. You could be causing some sort of dis-ease within yourself. I choose personally to be responsible for every choice and intention that I make in my life. And I encourage you to do the same. Be responsible. That's what being a sovereign is. You're being responsible for what you're putting in your body, for nourishing your mind, body, and spirit. To do otherwise would generate other adversity, mental adversity, that you neither want nor need. Now, I really want to shift gears for a second and talk about something just briefly that most people don't touch on, and that's skin and body care. When it comes to skin and body care, remember this simple fact. What you put on your body ends up in your body. In your body. This has been proven. Just think about a nicotine patch. You put it on your skin. What happens to the nicotine? It goes into your body. You put chemicals on your body from skin and body care, shampoos, other things. They go into your body. There's no immediate effect, of course. No. There is likely a longer-term effect that you either will or will not connect to that habit of using that body care. You could have the healthiest dietary practices. You could be vegan or vegetarian or eat everything organic, be very picky about your foods, and then turn around and contaminate your body with chemicals in your body care products. My hard and fast rule is the less chemicals, the better. Sometimes it's not possible to avoid chemicals altogether. There are some preservatives and some other things that will be in natural products. And not when something says organic on the label, that doesn't mean everything is organic, because some of the preservatives and other things cannot be organic. There may be a coloring in there that's not organic. There's a lot of games being played with the word organic, the word natural, 100% natural, that sort of thing. And, it's not to get all bent out of shape about it. It's just read the label and look at it and make a determination. If it's got more healthy than not healthy, hey, go for it. There's an enormous array of body care products, skincare products, soaps, shampoos, makeup, lip balm, conditioners, and lotions that don't contain a lot of those really bad chemical ingredients that are known to cause cancer in rats. And glycols are a category of this type of chemical. And just briefly, I'm going to simply tell you, it's interesting because society we think something has to suds up to being, something sudsing up means it's cleaning, it's doing its job, from toothpaste to soaps. And propylene glycol is one of those ingredients that adds to the foaming action, that creates that foaming action. And what's interesting is that's why they use it. It has been shown to cause cancer in rats. Will it cause cancer in you? Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. That's not something for me to say. What I'm saying is what you put on your skin goes into your body. That's simply put, right? That's the rule. And so choose a product that has the least amount of chemical ingredients in it. Those that has more healthier ingredients, one over another, and they're not that expensive. I find great shampoos and lotions in Target that are reasonably priced, that are natural, that have a lot of really good healthy ingredients in them, in the natural section in Target. Simple, okay? Less chemicals, the better. That's my rule. Less chemicals, the better. Now, what you put into your body and on your skin matters more than you'll ever know. When you're young, of course, hey, you're bulletproof. Nothing can harm you, and your body will recover very quickly. Personal experience has shown this to be the case for me, I know. But the longer-term effect, you have to remember, every intention has an effect, right? Remember, the cause and effect of intentions. And this long-term effect, depending on whether you're a man or a woman, can lead to different things. Diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, any number of chronic issues. And those chronic issues that you're looking to satisfy generally are going to be satisfied in some way with drugs, by dealing with the symptoms of whatever they are. And those symptoms, the drugs that you take, the pharmaceuticals for those symptoms, can cause things like erectile dysfunction, disease, kidney disease, liver dysfunction, and other things. You see, I had my father-in-law, first father-in-law, had some issue. He had some I forgot what exactly the symptom was that he had, but by the time he could figure it out, the doctor had prescribed so many drugs to him, 50 different drugs, because one drug was taking care of the symptom, the other drug was causing, and he was doing this. He was taking 50 different drugs, and it affected his kidneys, and before he knew it, his kidneys weren't functioning any longer, and he was on dialysis, and he had to retire. There are side effects to every drug. No matter how minor, there are side effects. Now, I've discussed some topics in this podcast that might seem to be maybe not associated with inner alchemy. However, they're more relevant than ever because they involve sovereignty. As the sovereign of your vessel, every decision you make about your health signals whether you are or not thinking, feeling, and acting in the best interest of your mind, body, and spirit. Claiming your sovereignty endows you with the right to control every thought, word, feeling, and action, and perform the inner alchemy which transforms these elements in real time, a process I affectionately refer to as turning lead into gold. You're doing this. You are turning lead into gold. What you think about yourself, hopefully, is positive. If it's not, turn lead into gold. Figure out what's at the heart. What perception's at the heart of how you feel about yourself. Whether you look in the mirror and you don't like what you see, if you develop a negative perception about that, a negative perception about yourself, it has other mental side effects. There's a cause and effect there to that perception, and you need to address it. Being happy, being energetic, enthusiastic means being positive about yourself and your life and what you're experiencing, and responding positively to what goes on in your life. That's all an aspect of wellness. Now, after listening to this podcast, take the time to ask yourself the question I asked myself over 30 years ago, and be honest. Be honest about your intentions for wellness. You have no reason to lie unless you enjoy being dishonest with yourself. If you have difficulty making better wellness choices, use what I refer to as the principle of extrapolation, which helps magnify both good and bad decisions. And here's how it works. I think I've expressed this maybe perhaps in a past episode. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into it here numerically for you and just show you how it helps guide me in making decisions, positive decisions about myself, about my wellness. For whatever you consume or put on your skin, multiply the number of times you do it each day, then extrapolate that number out 30 years. For example, if you eat a fast food burger and fries 3 times a week for lunch, multiply that by 52 weeks a year, and then again by 30 years. In this example, that would be 156 burgers and fries consumed per year, or 4,680 consumed over a 30-year period. If a Starbucks pumpkin spice latte is your thing, or any sweet latte, peppermint latte or whatever, as the seasons change, if this is your thing and you have one of these lattes 3 times a week, because one a day would be overdoing it, each latte contains 50 milligrams of sugar, which is equal to 12 teaspoons of sugar. This turns out to be 1,872 teaspoons of sugar per year, or 7,800 milligrams, or over a 30-year period, 56,160 teaspoons of sugar. This numerical soup alone is the reason why I don't drink lattes, spice latte, pumpkin latte, whatever, anything that's got that much sugar in it. If I'm going to have a cup of coffee, it'll be just simply, which I do very rarely, a handful of times a year, I'll have a cappuccino. And I'll control the natural sugar that goes into it. But listen, this is just one source of processed sugar in your diet, most likely. It is. I mean, think about that. That is an astounding amount of sugar just coming from a visit to get a latte, whether it's Starbucks or Pete's Coffee or some other coffee stand. And processed sugar has a huge effect on you going forward. That is the one thing. I mean, type 2 diabetes in the United States is rampant. It's at epidemic levels. And this is just one source of the amount of processed sugar. And I know people who go every single day to get a latte, every single day. I mean, think about juice smoothies, fruit smoothies. There's a ton of sugar in fruit smoothies, a ton. It's fruit sugar, but it's still sugar nonetheless. Hundreds of calories. If you have one a day, extrapolate it out a week, a year, 10 years even, 30 years even. This is what can help change your habits. At least it does for me. I apply the principle of extrapolation to keep me on track and eating healthier. I love donuts, man. I love donuts. I used to eat when I was young, when I was in my 20s. I used to have donuts every night when I come home from DJing a gig or coming home from a band gig. I'd stop at Winchell's in California at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning because they were open 24 hours. I'd get a couple of donuts and I'd go home and have them before I went to bed. Lord, I would never think about doing that today. And I stopped doing it 30 years ago because I said, okay, one donut, 3 or 4 donuts a week is so many donuts. How much sugar is in those donuts? Is this really healthy for me? Is this use empty calories? Blah, blah, blah. I started just extrapolating it out, how many calories I was taking in. And I made better choices about what I put into my body. Now, I can tell you it has very much limited my consumption of processed sugars and cereals and sugary drinks and microwave popcorn as well, because there's this thing called diactyl, which is a chemical that is on the inside, coats the inside of a bag of microwave popcorn. It's what keeps the grease and oil from going through the bag. It's a chemical, and that chemical leaches into the popcorn. And boy, it made me in a heartbeat. About a decade ago, actually a little more than a decade, I bought a couple of popcorn poppers, and started popping my own popcorn. And that way I could literally go get my own really wonderful cultured butter and sea salt and make some of the most amazing popcorn in the world, better than any microwave popcorn, and for less money and just as quickly. So really all this principle is about is getting you thinking, getting you making better decisions. Principle of extrapolation. And maybe you cut down, maybe you don't have 3 lattes a week, you have 1, or maybe 1 every 2 weeks, or maybe 1 a month is a very special thing for yourself. Like I said, there are no absolutes. However, at least you know what you're doing. You know what you're putting into your body. You're being a sovereign. You're being smart. You're making a decision based on practical, pragmatic information. And the web, great source. Get on your phone and say, okay, how many calories are in this glass of wine that I'm going to drink? Instead of having 3 glasses of wine, maybe you'll have 2. Maybe you'll have 1. Maybe you'll choose a beer over wine. Whatever. That cocktail, a martini person. How many sugar calories? How many milligrams of sugar are in a lemon martini? Right. Finding out that information, very quick. You can do it right there at the bar. And you can make decisions about what you put into your body right there on the spot and feel good about it, because you're in control. That's what a sovereign is. Sovereign is in control of mind, body, and spirit, thoughts, words, feelings, and actions. Now, lastly, I want to share 4 ways that you can help rediscover the magic in your life, because that's not a word most people associate with living. You get up in the morning, you go to the work that you do, the career path you're on, blah, 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 no magic, same thing day after day, over and over again. And again, this is about perception. And I love my friend Cheryl. We have these conversations, these text threads just about every day. And I just have to say this. Cheryl works in a bakery. And what's awesome about this is how she perceives herself in relationship to her work. She sees her work as an opportunity to connect with people. Yes, she's being creative. However, it's the people that come in that she's developing these deep connections, relational connections with, that enrich her life and their lives beyond measure. She's happy. She's well-adjusted. She's spiritually connected. She's consciously aware. And her intentions, she knows to the T. And so being a sovereign in this case comes easily for her. It's secondhand, second nature. Controlling mind, body, and spirit, controlling every thought, word, feeling, and action, and enhancing mind, body, and spirit is simple. Again, second nature. It's all a part of wellness, all of it. How you feel has more to do with your wellness than anything you do or anything you would experience. How you feel. It's not how what happens, it's how you respond to what happens. Right? Cortisol release, the heart attack hormone, the bad hormone that is generated from fear, anxiety, worry. That's not good for your body. So perceiving things in a positive way helps limit the release of cortisol. The four things that can help bring you magic back into your life. Number 1, step away from the familiar. Do it. Step away from the familiar whenever you can. Number 2, challenge yourself to think differently. Number 3, expose yourself to new landscapes, destinations, events, people, and activities. And number 4, Embrace the richness of life. Embrace the journey. That's what it is. It's a journey every day. See it as an opportunity or not. That perception is up to you. How you intend to go about the day is up to you. It's always a choice. It's so easy to get sucked into the 3D world of drama, negativity, emotional toxicity, pessimism, conflict, and hopelessness. Heighten your awareness of when the 3D world has taken hold of your thoughts, words, feelings, and responses so you can perform the inner alchemy necessary to transform these elements and rewrite your personal and life narrative right there on the spot. Now that's it for now, and I appreciate your taking the time to listen and sharing these podcasts with those you know. I know you have many things vying for your time, and I'm so deeply grateful that you have chosen to spend this time with me, whenever it is. Go forth and make it a great day. And until next time, be well. Bye-bye.